Truth Unveiled here, and today I have so much to share with you. We're going to be talking about all of the emergency preparations that are occurring for the total solar eclipse, and even ones that will take place after the eclipse. That and more to come. And we're here at KETV from a news report in Omaha, Nebraska that says emergency officials preparing for great solar eclipse. It's now less than 2 weeks before the great solar eclipse will be visible in Nebraska. Emergency officials are preparing for multiple scenarios that could happen once the sun goes dark. And what you'll start to find out is that it's not just in Nebraska, it's also nationwide. It's in places such as Oregon, and what we'll see even later on, even in places such as Charleston and many others. And I find it interesting that this article even alludes to the sun going dark in multiple scenarios. Because could this just be another excuse and another emergency preparation scenario exercise? Because we know that the government already has documentation that also alludes to preparations of power outage scenarios, so-called cyber attacks, and what to do with cyber tensions and cyber warfare, because they're practicing and getting ready for the real thing when it happens, whenever that is, just as we saw with ransomware that occurred earlier this year. Now, of course, it's normal to prepare for such things when it comes to such a large event as this, but it's definitely something worth noting. And later on in the video, we'll be talking about EarthX 2017, which is also FEMA's preparation, which comes 2 days after this eclipse. No surprise or coincidence. But this also says here, too, that the Nebraska State Patrol and state agencies have been planning for the eclipse for a year and said they're ready for multiple scenarios. And we know it's not just Nebraska either, because like I even mentioned earlier, Oregon is on high alert, and they'll even be calling in the National Guard on the day of the total solar eclipse. More preparation, more practicing in scenarios and drills. What are they really practicing for? And then also the Nebraska Emergency Management Agency, or NEMA's Emergency Operations Center in Lincoln, with around 20 officials from state agencies there, will be on alert and ready to deploy resources anywhere across the state at a moment's notice. And this isn't just going to be for the eclipse. We know they're also preparing beyond the eclipse. We know they've been preparing for a long time and secretly deploying military vehicles on the streets and transporting them to different places, and they'll even be talking about this even past the Revelation 12 sign that we're going to be seeing on September 23rd. Now, this is a report coming from Charleston, South Carolina, where it says strained cell phone service and traffic are key concerns as emergency officials prepare for the solar eclipse. It says in preparation for the first total solar eclipse to hit the U.S. since the proliferation of cell phones, communication systems and traffic are expected to suffer the greatest impact as the Charleston area is inundated with visitors. With the complete solar eclipse scheduled to occur on 8/21, local emergency management agencies have announced a coordinated effort to address complications that may arise during the once-in-lifetime event. But like I said, even after that, there are still going to be preparations made even within the same week. Now, there's another report also that has a list of school closures that will be closed during the solar eclipse on 8/21, and here's just a list of them. There are some from South Carolina that will be closed. Many of them in Georgia also will be getting out early from school. There are others that will be closed, and it varies from county to county. Some will also have early dismissal. I just wanted to show you this list just so that you're aware of it. And I'll be sure to leave all of that in the description box below. Now here's a map, in case you have not already seen it, of the path of totality when it comes to the total solar eclipse. Now, I've said this in my previous video, and I'll be sure to say it again. We see that this eclipse is passing over some very interesting and suspicious places indeed. Ones including the Cascadia fault line up here around Oregon and the Washington area, and then also over Yellowstone National Park that's located right here, and then traveling all the way down to the New Madrid fault line area right here in southern Illinois and the Little Egypt region, and then passing onward through the Atlantic Ocean and even passing over the Georgia Guidestones. What I really wanted to bring to your attention in this video isn't even so much the eclipse itself, but rather what happens 2 days later and the emergency scenario that's going to be taking place. And it's known as Earth X 2017 by the EIS Council, and this will be taking place 2 days later as of 8/23, 2017. And we'll be going over this more in detail, but before we do, note how this will take place as of 8/23, 2017. Note the date and how this is exactly a month following the Michelangelo exhibit that was on display in New York for an entire month, where it left and remained for a month there at the Oculus as of 6/23, 2017, all the way up until 7/23, 2017, with the painting featuring Last Judgment. And I also talked about that in my video, which I'll link in the description box below, having to do with Last Judgment in America, literally. And then after New York City, the Michelangelo exhibit will then head to New Jersey, where it will be in Paramus for another month and a half, starting as of September 1st, all the way up until October 15th. And right on time, what perfect timing for this event to go on too, because they'll be hosting this emergency scenario exactly 1 month before the Revelation 12 sign and the star alignment as of September 23rd, 2017. And note all of the 23s and what happens when you add up 9/11, 2001. Very interesting and suspicious indeed. And did I mention how this will also be a week before FEMA's National Preparedness Month, which is in September, by the way, and we'll be going over more of that later on in the video to come. Now here's more about the company that's hosting this. The EIS, or the Electric Infrastructure Security Council, is addressing severe hazards to critical societal infrastructures, and the EIS Council facilitates national and international collaboration and planning to protect our society's critical utilities against uniquely severe black sky hazards. And we're going to be seeing exactly their definition of black sky hazards. Our programming and special projects help utilities and their partners develop and implement cost-effective, consensus-based protection measures by hosting frameworks for sustained coordination, planning, and best practice development. And so, what is a black sky hazard? It is a catastrophic event that severely disrupts the normal functioning of our critical infrastructures in multiple regions for long duration. So, what are they getting ready for? Power outages nationwide, and that is the drill that they're getting ready for. And they say that the man-made hazards includes an EMP, which we know our government's been getting ready for, and an IEMI, which is an intentional electromagnetic interference. And you'll see other organizations involved with this and this drill that's going to take place 2 days after the eclipse, by the way. Ones including FEMA and the DOE and the DHS. More alphabet soups. Very interesting and suspicious indeed. Now, other hazards that they also focus on includes ones that have to do with cyber terrorism, a coordinated physical assault, and they also deal with natural hazards such as a seismic event, a high magnitude earthquake, geomagnetic disturbances, as they call it, hurricanes and other severe weather events, and much more. And now we'll be going over the actual exercise to see what it's all about. Now, they claim to be planning against black sky hazards, but it's so interesting and suspicious indeed how the Tallahassee Democrat came out recently this week with an article about an event having to do with black sky, and in it they even cited a so-called cyber attack and North Korea. As we see with the tensions, what do they know? But here is actually more of the document that talks about Earth X 2017, and it says Critical Lifeline Cross-Sector Exercise on 8/23/2017, an opportunity to test and refine policies and procedures for responding to a long-duration power outage. Come as you are exercise for executive and senior operational managers, opportunity to provide critical feedback to federal and state agencies to improve preparedness and operational support, no cost, and it's widely distributed exercise using new DHS exercise tools. DHS, Department of Homeland Security, the same organization funding and getting ready for FEMA camps. Now, they also say that it's a 4-hour exercise over 3 advancing phases, and we'll be going over that briefly, and I'll be sure to leave this too in the description box below so you can see it also on your own time. Now, they claim that EarthX 2017 is a decentralized, international, multi-sector, self-assessed exercise focused on the impact of long-duration power outages. Their primary objective is to improve community resilience to long-duration power outage events through cross-sector exercises, but this is what they're telling us. Now here's the actual event schedule. As you can see, it began all the way back earlier in 2017 with an initial planning conference and a teleconference, and then it kept going with coordinators who met a month later, and then back in the fourth month, it met with the teleconference with the EarthX Middle Planning Conference. And it's very interesting and suspicious indeed, because notice how they initially began to plan around the same time as Operation Gotham Shield, which was the operation involving a detonation drill scenario in New York City. What are they getting ready for? And then they kept going all the way until rehearsals, going all the way until target date 1, which will be on 8/23/2017, and then even a day following on the 24th. Now here is the actual exercise where they discuss more about what they'll be doing. As you can see, it will be a 4-hour exercise, and it will be divided into 4 phases, and these phases will describe the events and decisions that must be made days after a power outage goes out in the entire region nationwide. Now, as you can see right here, there's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Phase 1 involves day 3 events and decisions 3 days after a power outage. Phase 2 involves 4 to 6 days after, and then phase 3 involves days 15 plus after, so over 2 weeks after restoration strategy and crisis communications. And then also they have phase 4, which is feedback and policy and support recommendations. Now, is it a surprise or a coincidence that this exercise just so happens to be 4 hours? That's not a surprise or a coincidence, because that's the exact same scenario in the exact same time frame of the total solar eclipse that's just 2 days earlier. It will be exactly 4 hours long of a duration. What a surprise or coincidence. Do you really think that's all a coincidence? Do you really think they're just coordinating that for no reason? I don't think so whatsoever. But this talks more about each of the phases and what they plan to be doing. Now, like I said, phase 1 is day 3 of a widespread power outage or no solution. Electric subsector has completed an initial assessment and determines that essential components of generation and substation equipment is non-functioning and cannot be restored. Voltage collapse has occurred. All sites that do not have an on-site backup power generation capability with more than 72 hours of on-site diesel fuel are offline. Millions are without power, and like I said, they're getting ready for this, and they're hosting this just 2 days after the total solar eclipse. And then phase 2 is what would happen in a scenario 6 days or 4 to 6 days after a widespread power outage, and the critical decisions, assessments, and actions that must be made. Electric subsector must begin the detailed assessment of components at generation sites and all substations to determine component impact and status. All elements of generation, transmission, and distribution has been impacted. All emergency management elements are online due to cascading impacts from the extended power outage. No anticipated restoration time estimate is available until after day 6 assessments are concluded. Alternate communications, resource prioritization, manpower, alternate tools for reliability and management must be discussed. And then phase 3 talks about the widespread power outage, black start, communications, cross-sector coordination if this were to affect the nation over 2 weeks. It says electric subsector has completed the detailed assessment and a black start cranking path must be determined and assembled. Public prioritization of critical lifeline sectors, medical, water system, continuity of government functions, and communications has been supplied. Now here are some of the organizations that also will be involved, where it says EarthX Information Sharing and Lane Play, the Battle Rhythm Manager Exercise Tool. It says the electric sector includes management, generation, transmission, and distribution, oil and natural gas fuel sector, management, oil, natural gas, and distribution. It also talks about federal coordination and contingency lanes, the water sector, corporate agency incidents response team, private sector, and I'll be sure to leave this in the description box below so you can see it. Also has first responders and local EM for coordination response, state government, including emergency management and the National Guard and the health, so we see that they're involved too, and also non-governmental agencies for coordination and response, regulatory for management, assessment, and action response, and the federal government, including the DOE, the DHS, and FEMA, alphabet soups, the same ones planning and funding secretly these FEMA camps. What are they getting ready for? And by the way, in a FEMA pamphlet that was released by the Emergency Management Institute as of this summer by the National Emergency Training Center, EarthX 2017 is actually on their calendar, so we see exactly what they're getting ready for. Couple that with the Cascadia Rising drill that was just last year that prepared for a 9.0 earthquake on the Cascadia region, which is the same region that the solar eclipse will be passing by. What exactly are they getting ready for? Why all of this preparation like never before? And then a week later following that is the National Preparedness Month, which is when in September, hosted by who? FEMA and your government too, because it says this September, National Preparedness Month, or NPM, will focus on planning with an overarching theme, quote, disasters don't plan ahead, you can. We should all take action to prepare. We are all able to help first responders in our community by training how to respond during an emergency and what to do when disaster strikes where we live, work, and visit. The goal of NPM is to increase the overall number of individuals, families, and communities that engage in preparedness actions at home, work, business, school, and place of worship. And the weekly themes include making a plan for yourself, friends, and family, planning to help your neighbor and community, practice in building out your plans, and getting involved to be a part of something larger, divided over the course of 4 weeks, around the same time as the Revelation 12 sign also. Please seek Yahuwah and his true son Yahusha so you will be ready like never before. But I'll be sure to link all of these things in the description box below so you can take a look at it on your own time. But this is Truth Unveiled here, keeping you updated with the world around you and saying as always, Shalom.